What's up, nerds, and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. So recently, a YouTuber that I'm not going to name by name dropped a video talking about tips on how to get better at Destiny. And I've seen a lot of tips and tricks type videos out, and the one thing they all have in common is that they are by people who are clearly in the top 1% of competitive players. And although their tips are good, don't get me wrong, they know what they're talking about for sure. But although they're good, they're just like too advanced for some players. I mean, most players probably. But we're going to talk a little bit about those tips today and what we think here at MDM will help make you a better player. So before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and drop us a comment on what you think is the most helpful pro gamer tip that you know. So, you want to get good, kid, but you don't know what to do first. Well, let me jump in here with the average gamer's guide to being a better player. Now, this applies to PvP, and specifically PvP in D2, but really could be put into play anywhere as long as it's a first-person shooter, and these should generally be good pieces of advice. So buckle up, nerds. We have several points to cover today. First, and probably the most important part of playing well, is map awareness, right? This is really the root of winning. We'll talk about weapons and loadout strats in a bit, but first, we need to cover how to know what's where and when to be where and why.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So first, let's define map awareness. Now, despite what you may have heard, all the funky complex definitions out there, map awareness is just looking at the map and knowing what's in front of you. That's really all it boils down to. If you have good map awareness, you don't even need this little radar thing up in the corner. A skilled player can manage from their point of view exactly what's happening in front of them. And that's the key here. Don't worry about the radar. It's really not useful. It just puts you in a place to be paranoid and freaking out about what's around you, and other players can use that to their advantage. So think about how many times you've seen red ping on your radar, and it turns out it's actually just a smoke, right? Don't let that get into your head. Don't look at it. Be aware of what you see in front of you, and that's going to be the foundation to the rest of this video. If you think someone's flanking you, don't sweat it. Just run forward. Just outrun the enemy. Let your teammates take care of it. You need to focus on where you're going. This leads us to the next point, which is how to get there. Sometimes it's referred to as movement, but that's just another one of those complex, overused terms that's floating around out there. What movement really means is just running towards where you're going. Step one was to see it and be aware of it, and now step two is to get there. So let's talk about how. Obviously, speed is important. Knowing that, we have to think about two things. One, sprint. Sprint all the time. Sure, your weapons aren't ready when you're sprinting, but again, this is about speed. If you get there first, you have time to ready your weapons and then engage the enemy. So remember that. Sprint everywhere. Second, don't crouch. Crouching is for people who want to move slow and die, and for shotgunning losers that camp around corners. Don't be those people. You're a better player than that, or at least you will be if you keep these rules in mind. So, don't crouch. Just don't do it. Third would be jumping. Jumping is by far one of the most misunderstood things when it comes to movement. All the friggin' time I see people jumping around blind corners, jumping over doorways. It's ridiculous, right? Sure, it might get you out of sight for a minute, or give you an angle that the enemy isn't expecting, but really it just puts you at a disadvantage. Weapons are less accurate from the air, and jumping makes you an easier target to hit when someone's watching along sightline. So don't jump. I know it's tempting, but keep your feet on the ground. If you want to get away, just sprint faster than they can shoot, and you'll be fine. Zigzag if you have to, right? But just run. Run towards the enemy to engage. Run away from them if you think you're going to lose. Don't crouch. Don't jump. The one exception here is jumping over obstacles. If you want to jump over a box or a bus or a wall or something that's in the way, that's fine. Just make sure you do it where there's no enemies. Don't jump in front of your enemies. Okay, so we set the foundation here with map awareness and movement. Now that you know what you're looking at and you know how to get there, let's talk about how to engage the enemy. The first thing you want to use is your ability. I don't care what subclass you have, the first thing you want to do is use your ability. If you're a hunter, dodge out into the line of sight, so you can scope out the enemy. If you're a warlock, position yourself in the middle of an open area so you have a large field of view, preferably in the middle of a big sight line so you have the biggest range of view you can, and throw down a rift. Titans, put up a barricade right in the middle of the lane so you have maximum coverage and visibility to the enemy. Remember, abilities are here to help make you successful in your engagements. Use them every chance you get. They recharge so you can keep practicing and refining your timing on using them. But the first thing you want to do, as soon as you figure out where you're going, is use the abilities. Make them work for you. Now that we're positioned, and we've given ourselves the upper hand with the ability, it's time to shoot at something. Now, there's no shortage of weapons in D2. You can go close range, long range, or somewhere in between. But there are certain weapons that will make you instantly win an engagement. Let's start with long range by looking at how to snipe. It's important to remember that the type of weapon you choose dictates how you play. So with a sniper, you want to be long range. You want to have good visibility, and most importantly, you want to have your sights on target at all times. Since you don't really need to worry about radar like we talked about before, the best sniping tip I can give you is hard scope, all day long. If you're constantly zooming in and out and moving around, you risk missing a good clean shot out in the open. So, pick your lane and scope in, and stay there. It's just a matter of time before the enemy runs right in front of you. And trust me, if you wait long enough, they will walk through your line of sight and you'll be there to pick them off. If you're constantly moving around, there's no time to line up that shot, so just stay put and scope. This is a recipe for success right here. But you might say, well, I don't like long range. I don't want to play the long range game. And that's fair. Sometimes it's fun to get up close and personal with your enemies. In this case, I recommend either a hand cannon, most likely the last word, which is what we'll talk about today, or a shotgun, any shotgun. For hand cannons, especially the last word, ADS, aim down sights to ensure you hit your target accurately. Going for those precision hits, especially with the last word, is the way to win the engagement. Fire it off as fast as you can too to make sure that you beat them on rate of fire. Last word has a high rate of fire and it does great precision damage. So aim down sights, squeeze and hold the trigger, and let it do the work for you. If that's not your style, but you still want to come in close range, then your only other option is really a shotgun. Shotguns are an easy way to maximize kills with little to no effort. Remember back to when we talked about movement and I said don't crouch except for when you shotgun? Well, now's the time. Pick a doorway or other area where players funnel in and crouch away. This takes you off their radar completely and sets the perfect trap for a clean, quick kill. Crouch down and look up at about a 45-degree angle. Right? You don't want to be looking straight out in front of you because then you're shooting them in the kneecap. So you want to point up at a 45-degree angle, and once someone rounds that corner, bam! That's it. You win. That's all there is to it. Congratulations on the free kills there. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if I don't want to snipe, but I also don't want to be in close range? Well, lucky for you, there is a weapon in Destiny called the Fusion Rifle. The Fusion Rifle is the mid-range dominator that, much like the shotgun, provides an endless amount of free kills in any match. Now you can debate about things like range versus impact and whatever, but the real key to success with a fusion rifle is to do these two things. If you do these two things, you will be successful every time. 1, ADS as soon as you see an enemy and aim high. The important part here is aiming high. Precision hits are what matter. You want as many projectiles as possible to hit at head level for critical hits. So aim at the head and you maximize the amount of damage you can do. Second, make sure you line up your shot before you charge up the fusion rifle. Countless times I've seen players pre-charge and it either goes off early and wastes a round, or the enemy isn't where they think they are and they miss half of their projectiles. So this one is really important, and the downfall to this weapon type is that you need to land all of these projectiles in order to be successful. So set yourself up with the best possible scenario by ADSing at their head and then charging up your shot once you see them. You can thank me later when you have a KAD that is over 1.0. You're welcome. So, I know this was kind of a quick coverage of these things. I know there's a lot to take in with everything that we talked about, but let's recap to make sure it all sticks. So first, make sure you're focused on what's in front of you. Don't worry about your radar. Don't worry about everything else. Focus on what's in front of you. Second, sprint to your location so you can be there ready to engage as fast as possible. Third, spam the abilities. Use them all the time. Once you set yourself up for engagement with those 3 pieces, take your weapon of choice and get ready to drop some bodies. I promise it will be the easiest kills you're ever going to get if you hit that 1-2-3 setup. Well, I hope this tutorial was helpful. Let us know what you think in the comments. And until next time, later nerds.